So back in 2023, when I talked about this, I'm not joking. Like everybody's like, you're being so dramatic. I literally felt like the guy right here as I was describing all of this because people are like, that's never going to happen. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this is the only play that makes sense. And so now in 2026, as I'm watching all of this happen, I'm this little girl over here who's like, I'm not going to say I told you so, but I'm just saying. So let's talk through what has happened in the real estate industry and how all of this is playing out in terms of AI. So back in 2021, Zillow started their iBuyer program, Zillow Offers. And at the time, they basically put agents on salary and they were essentially door openers. They sold their leads to like their top performing agents and they ended up failing at this miserably. It cost them $300 million to figure out how to do this. And that was back in 2021. And so I knew that Zillow was going to try again to get rid of the real estate agent in the transaction, right? Like if you think about the fact that Zillow is a publicly traded company, it means that their job is to maximize profit as much as they possibly can. And so to do that, the biggest chunk of the transaction is the real estate agent's commission. So Zillow has been coming after it for years. So then fast forward, right? So Zillow already owns ShowingTime and Dotloop at this point, and so they now have all of our showing data. They're watching how pricing affects showings. And then they also own our contract data. So they can see how the actual contracts negotiations go, what gets an offer accepted, what terms are being updated. And then in 2023, they announced that they were acquiring a Follow Up Boss. Now, a little context here. I was a raving fan for Follow Up Boss. I still believe that Follow Up Boss is the best real estate CRM in the entire industry. But here is my issue with it. When that happened, I had known that Zillow already owned ShowingTime and Dotloop. To me, that only told me one thing, which was that Zillow was going to be using all of our data to be able to train an AI agent. And so at the time, we didn't have that language for AI agents and all these things in terms of the modern way, but I was using it in terms of a modern AI real estate agent, right? And so as I was seeing this happen, I was one of the moderators for the Follow Up Boss group, and I already had seen that this was going to come. And so I got a lot of pushback on this from people because they were of the belief that Zillow already owned all of our data, right? Like they have the consumer data, they know what properties they're looking for. But what I was concerned about is the fact that Zillow now had access to all of our recorded calls, the scripting, the tonality, the contact attempts, the best time to call, all of the stuff that fixes the consumer facing side of the conversion process. And so in 2025, this was in October of last year, they went and very, very quietly updated their terms of service, which they had originally said that Zillow would never have access to all of that data in Follow Up Boss, which I knew made no sense, right? So now, fast forward to 2025, they now have access to all of the conversation data, all of the things. At some point, it was optional, and I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up becoming something that is just sort of built in, right? So then fast forward, right? So when I talked about this originally, people were like, oh, that's never going to happen. People are never going to use AI to help them buy and sell real estate. It's such a big transaction, blah, 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 all these things, right? Well, fast forward to March of this year. Well, people are using AI to negotiate real estate transactions. And even in the probate process, right? I was at an event recently where the judges talked about how people are using AI to represent themselves in probate court. So this is not like some sort of far off dystopian thing. This is like actually happening. So then now fast forward to just a couple weeks ago, Zillow has officially announced that they are going to lean into AI as revenue climbs 18% in a flat housing market. So as I said, a publicly traded company's job is to increase profit. The fastest, easiest way for them to do that is to start digging into the real estate agent's commission. And if Zillow has it their way, they will pay agents by the door. And so the value of a real estate agent will start to decline if Zillow has their way. And so now fast forward to this was last week, the feds and law enforcement are actually warning that people are getting so angry about AI that I think that this right here is the opportunity, okay? The place between Zillow going all in on AI and the public being really upset about it is where that bridge is sort of happening. So let's talk about this. So, with that in mind, throughout this whole journey, I want to share a little bit about my own business in this. So, first is I started by systemizing my own business with funnels. And then taking that a step further is I continued to build better automations, better tech, better systems, all of the things that were going to give me more of my sort of free time back. And my biggest priority was focusing on building a business that was going to still feel personal while also being automated. So then I hired a team of VAs to handle all of the things. At our peak, we were at 11 VAs. And I will tell you, as great as VAs are, I burned out managing all of them. I felt like I was babysitting 11 children and I was managing 11 families. And it was the most stressful thing that I had ever done in my business. And so, in all of that, what I've come to understand is that AI, when it's done really well, is not here to replace people, nor are systems or VAs or anything else. They are here to make us more present. So, while everybody else is going all in on AI, I'm focusing on making my business way more personal. So in today's video, I want to share with you exactly what I'm doing in order to make my business feel more human. Now, I'm going to give you a little hint here. The answer is not using AI. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about how to make the business feel more human, even as we use AI. So let's dig in. Number one is in my content and in everything that I'm creating is I'm no longer educating. And I know that this goes against like everything that we've ever talked about, right? Like everyone's always like, be valuable, bring value, make sure you educate, be a consultant that educates, not just sells and all the things, right? Well, here's the thing. Number one is I have pivoted from educating to documenting my journey. So I'm documenting what I'm doing rather than dictating what people should do, okay? Think about it like this. When AI came about, AI knows whether you use Claude, Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, whatever your preferred platform is, it knows a lot about you. And so all sort of education-based content that's not hyper-personalized is no longer as valuable as what AI can give you. But have you ever noticed how soulless AI can be sometimes and that it doesn't have lived experience? It can't sit down and say, hey, listen, I thought this was the best way, and here was my journey along the way. Here's every mistake that I made, and here's how I fixed it, and all of the things. So that lived experience becomes the thing that AI can never replace. So I do that through storytelling, through identity shifting, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, and by building community. Before AI came out, the first thing that we used to do is attract a lead, right? So that was like my favorite way to do that in the old way was to focus on like property tours on my Instagram stories and all the things, and then educate them. And so I was queen of educational content. I had all of my long-term nurture sequences that were super educational and all the things. And then when they were ready, then you would convert them. And I would do that through a sales funnel. Now, in the post-AI journey, the first thing is that we have to show them a new timeline. So this sounds like a little fluffy. I get that. But really, when you think about it, think about the facts that every person that you meet, every decision that you make is a portal into a new timeline. It is something that becomes an inflection point in your life that says, I was going this direction and now I'm choosing to go this direction. And that is a timeline shift. And so giving them the ability to understand that this problem that they thought they were facing doesn't have to be a problem, and that there's a whole different way, a whole different world, a whole different timeline. That is where we really focus on the new identity and that timeline shift. And we do this through embodiment, right? So instead of telling them, this is what you should do, it's this is what I'm doing, this is how I'm doing it, this is what I'm seeing, this is what my clients are saying, this is what my clients are feeling, all of those things. Then we go into number two, which is focusing on building community for your audience. Now, have you ever noticed how hard it is to make friends in adulthood? Like-minded people are really hard to come about. And so if you can be the person who magnetizes other people who think the same way that they do, all of a sudden your value in their eyes is exponentially higher because it's no longer about, again, education. It's really about, let me show you a new life and let me show you that there's other people who are on this journey as well. That is where we start talking about conquering that loneliness, conquering that, like, I'm connected to all these people, but I don't feel like I'm connected in a meaningful way. And then the last piece of this is once they're ready to actually step into that new timeline is to deliver an actual transformation. Now, I know that this feels really abstract and fluffy, but this is the way of the future, right? Like, and I'll probably do more videos talking about like tactically how to do this, but I am seeing the difference between the old way and the new way. The new way is all about identity shifting and new timelines rather than just education. If you're just educating, I'm not surprised that your engagement is down. I'm not surprised that people are not responding the same way they used to. And that's again because they can get their education, if you will, from AI. This is something that I'm so confident about because I'm already hearing from my own network, my own database, my own audience that they love the way that I approach this. And this was a DM that I got from somebody. She actually said that she was learning from me in how to deliver an identity shift. And so these are the things that I want you guys to start thinking about in the messaging and the communication that you're offering to your audience. Number 2 is I'm making AI invisible. Okay. Now, it's not that I'm not using it. I use AI every single day, but let's talk about this for a second. The AI setup that I have right now has replaced 9 of my 11 VAs for me, but my clients never interact with it. I've seen several videos of people talk about how there's going to be 2 businesses of the future. There's going to be the ones that are really AI enabled and they're going to focus on volume. That's going to be the Zillow of the future. And then there's going to be the really high touch non-AI business. And that's not to say that you will never use AI. It's that the client doesn't experience the AI face of it, right? And so it's there, it's present, it's in the background, but it's not in the foreground for the client. And so this is where I really want to focus on the fact that it's not either or, it truly is both and. It's both AI and personal. Here are some of the things that I'm having my AI do for me. I use Claude for like brainstorming, but then there's a couple of agents that I've built through different platforms that are actually doing work for me. So it's not like I'm going to Claude, asking for its advice, and then going and doing the work. Literally, my AI agents are actually doing the work. And so much so that even one of my agents I treat like my executive assistant, and it coordinates my calendar, schedules follow-ups, all of the things that my VAs used to do are my AI is now doing. The only difference is that AI doesn't get sick, it doesn't have power outages, it doesn't have a kid that didn't sleep last night, they don't need to travel, they don't need to take a break. And I get that there's the ethical implications of this, but as a small business owner, I don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to manage a whole bunch of people. And so having AI agents that are actually doing the work has been game-changing and life-changing for me. So if this is something that you want me to talk more about and how I'm using this, just let me know in the comments and I'm happy to make a video on this. Next up is I'm doing more 5-minute favors. Now, I want to give you the fastest 5-minute favor that you will ever make that also is massively influential, impactful, and just powerful when you're working with your community, your audience, your database, whatever you prefer to call it, and it's making introductions. So when you're building referral relationships and you're meeting like an estate planning attorney and a wealth manager and a estate sale company and all these things, connecting them with each other based on the things that they tell you that they're working on in their business, this serves so many purposes that I cannot even begin to explain. So first is it shows that you are who you say that you are. Like when you bring 2 people together and they don't know what they have in common yet, guess what the first thing they're going to talk about is? You, right? And they're going to be like, oh my God, they're so awesome. They're always connecting me. Look at all these things that they do in the community. Did you see X, Y, and Z? You're the common grounds that they have in the beginning. So you're literally having a social proof conversation that you're not even part of. And so I love making introductions. You can change the literal trajectory of people's lives with the introductions that you make. Like I said earlier, people are portals. When you meet a new person in your life and you choose to continue that relationship, you are entering a new timeline, a new version of your life. And that is what you're offering to people when you're making those introductions. Okay. Number 4 is I am going super analog. And I've had so much fun with this. So let's talk about that. First is handwritten notes have always been a thing for me. I've always loved them. I don't have my brand on them or anything like that. I literally don't have a logo. And most of the time, I don't even sign my full name. I just sign Alexa. And so this is what somebody I sent a handwritten note to recently. This is what she posted on LinkedIn in a group that I'm active in. And then because I send so many notes, I get them back all the time. And so it's the coolest thing to see how people just like have embraced this so much. And I share a lot about this online because I want people to do more of this. It's the easiest way to make somebody's whole day just by offering just something that takes literally 5 minutes, right? Here's another one. I did a speaking engagement and they all sent me a handwritten note. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. So the focus here is more touches that are offline. I've been bringing food to people's offices. So my wealth managers, my attorneys, I bring them food based on whatever their preferences are. Sometimes it's crumble cookies, sometimes it's empanadas, sometimes it's something else. I don't know, whatever. I do lots of in-person experiences, lots of networking. I do lots of drop-bys, and I focus on intentional mail. So not just postcards. I never really promote in the mail. It's very much focused on that intentional one-on-one relationship. The last one here, I think, is the most important, especially if you want AI to work in the background. The thing about AI and the agents is if you overload it with a bunch of conflicting information and a bunch of scenarios that you're like, in this situation, I do this, in this situation, I do this, and you have 20 different ways that you handle situations, the AI is going to really struggle to make good decisions. So by going deeper instead of wider, we can help with that. Over the last 18 months, I have gone all in on inherited property. I've written about this, I've posted about it, all the things. I'll link down below an article that breaks down in detail exactly how I did this, why I did it, like the steps that I took, how I built the referral relationships, all the things. Then I went and wrote a book and built a platform, and it's been incredible. To give you a quick summary here as to why I pivoted, what I've come to understand is that inherited property is a growing market, right? As we enter the great wealth transfer, 1 out of 4 homes in America are going to be inherited. And what I'm realizing is the fact that because there's so many out-of-state clients, what you will typically find is that the actual manual in-person work that you have to do on inherited property is actually a lot less than it is with a traditional client. Also, one attorney relationship can lead to dozens of referrals, right? Like getting in with one attorney is infinitely more profitable than 10 regular sphere relationships. That's not an accident. That's intention. And so what I've found is that by doing it this way, it's actually given me parts of my relationships and parts of my life back because I'm so intentional with the attorneys and focus on building 10, 20 referral partner relationships that lead to multiple transactions. My sphere relationships are so much deeper. The next thing is, as of today, AI can't go in and clean out and prep an inherited property for the market. Families are spending $20,000 to $50,000 to clean out inherited property. It takes them 200 or more hours to get that property cleaned out and prepped for the market. So all of these things mean that they still need people, right? And that is where the value comes into play. Boomers own most of the high-end real estate in America. And so by focusing on this space, getting more high-end listings has become infinitely easier. Next thing is personally so special to me, which is that I get to focus on family legacies and generational wealth, right? Like a lot of people talk about that and they talk about it in the terms of like, buy your first property and start the journey to generational wealth. But if you're at the end of the life journey, you are literally there for what I call the family's coronation. It's the moment that family legacy transfers from one generation to the next. And let me tell you, it is so fulfilling and so rewarding. I cannot tell you how much I love this space. The next thing is making my business more sellable. They always say that realtors don't retire, we expire, right? That means that we sell houses until we die. I always think about how like doctors and lawyers, build these practices that they end up selling to somebody else, and then they're able to retire and walk away from their practice. But realistically, how many real estate agents do you know that have actually been able to sell their business? Probably not many. And that comes down to the fact that they are the business, right? If they stop, people don't want to work with Joe Schmo. But when you focus on a niche and you build an experience that other people can do in your place, now you're building an actual business. And that is valuable from a resale perspective. So as I talk about this, the thing that I always hear in terms of questions from agents is like, well, that sounds great, but like, how do you even start in the space? And how do you get referrals? And how do you work with these attorneys? And let me tell you, they're not as scary as you think. They're still real people. They just speak a different language. And so, as I said, one attorney relationship leads to multiple transactions. And what I'm starting to see is that there are attorneys who refer me to every client that they work with because I make their life easier and better. And there's a couple of places that you might end up getting stuck if you do decide to take this on. So the first one is feeling like you're going to lose clients if you go and start niching. And I have not seen that I've lost any clients by doing this. I still get regular real estate transactions. I still get referrals. I still do all the other things, but I also have earned credibility in the spaces that I actually want more business. So I become a specialist and an expert in this specific thing while also maintaining my referrals and my production from the other side. The next thing is not understanding the lingo of probate. This one is a big one, right? Like you don't want to sit down with an attorney and they start rattling off all these terms and you're like, I don't know what any of this means, right? And I get that. That takes a little bit of practice. And if you stick with me for just 2 seconds here, I have something I think will help you a little bit. And the next one is feeling uncomfortable around attorneys. I get this as well. Like most of us only talk to attorneys when there's a problem. And so now partnering with them feels really intimidating. And so I'm going to show you exactly how I do this, okay? So I put together what I call the probate referral system, and this is everything that I do in order to build these relationships. And I also partnered with a data provider. They offer probate leads throughout the country. And so when you go in there, you can pull all the attorneys that are actually opening probate cases. One of the mistakes that I made that I spent way too much time on was spending time building relationships with estate planning attorneys rather than probate attorneys because I didn't realize how different they actually were. Estate planning attorneys are on the proactive side, so they typically are not going to be able to send you referral business, whereas the probate attorneys are the ones that can refer you, but they're not always marketing the same way that estate planning attorneys are. And so knowing who the top 20, 30, 50 probate attorneys in your market are, all of a sudden the game changes. I use an 8-touch outreach campaign that's omni-channel, meaning I reach out over LinkedIn, mail, email, call, drop by, all the things, and I give you exactly what I say, how I say it, the cadence, everything. The terminology cheat sheet is exactly what I described before. It breaks down all the probate terminology that you need to know in order to feel really confident that when you sit down with an attorney and they're like rattling off all of this, you're going to be like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, right? I have a customized pre-listing package specifically for inherited property cases that takes them through the clean out, the prep. It uses grief-focused language, and so that is included in here as well. The next one is attorney objection handlers. And so some of them are like, what if they have an agent already? Or what if they are looking for a neighborhood expert? There's 5 different common objections in there, and I give you exactly what to say, how to say it, all the things. The next one is a principle that I always give the attorneys to leave in their office, to send to their clients. And basically, this is giving you the qualification, if you will, that the client is going to ask their agent that they work with. And so most agents are not prepared to answer these questions. And so because you're the only one prepared to answer them, you are going to get the listing. And so it actually helps to raise the bar so that the client knows that they need a specialist and that inherited property is not the same as a regular real estate transaction. The Discovery Call Guide walks you through that whole conversation from beginning to end and exactly what you need to do. And then lastly is I put together a workshop that teaches you how to use all of these things. So it's kind of in the same format as this video, just way more tactical. and way more tangible and applicable. So all of this is for $44. I know that's crazy, but I truly believe that as a real estate industry, if we don't fix inherited property, like family legacies across America are going to collapse. We're going to see property values start to decline. And so, like I said, I know that this is literally insane, but this is because I'm so invested in making sure that we redefine the way that America inherits property. So that's why I put this together. The link for it is down below in the description. You can also use the QR code, or you can go to heirloomagents.com/PRS, and I will see you in the next video.